latest term is manspreading, and it's a reference to men who get on buses, streetcars, spread their legs wide open, that V-shaped formation that we all can see, and what they end up doing is taking up extra space on all these buses, streetcars, and subways. And people get upset about it. And we were talking about it last week. We talked about whether or not it was appropriate to start taking pictures and posting it. It happened in the U.S., and the U.S. has got these big ads are appearing on subways next month. Poster reading, "Hey, dude, stop the spread." And a lot of people we took so many calls from people last week who said, yeah, it's awful. You get on there and people can't, it's just an awful thing. And people were supporting the fact that the TTC is going to try and emulate, or they may try and emulate what's happening in New York. Well, then I see over the weekend there is a petition against this ban, a ban against the ban from the Canadian Association for Equality. They've got an online petition, and they basically don't want to stop or force men to close their legs, because they say, look, we can't force women to stop breastfeeding. We can't force them to stop bringing strollers. Why are we doing this? Let's talk to Geoff Stone, one of the spokespeople for the Canadian Association for Equality. Hi, Geoff.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining me. So obviously, are you looking this as it's somewhat it would be discriminatory to do this? Is that what you're saying?
If they were only targeting men, yes, that would be discriminatory. If it's for anybody who happens to be spreading their legs, then I wouldn't call it discriminatory. I would call it small-minded and annoying and a nuisance, but I wouldn't call it discriminatory.
So is it that you don't like the word man spreading? Is that it?
I think that's the main issue. Why make it a gender issue in the first place? I don't think it's a big issue, period. Compared to all the other problems with people taking up too much space on the subway and general rudeness on the subway, I don't think leg spreading is really a big issue. I think it's being sort of blown out of proportion.
Well, when we were talking about it last week, Geoff, and we had lots of people calling in, and there were a lot of pictures that people took and whatever, well, a lot of people were saying it is a problem that guys get on and that's how they sit. And we even had people who were saying, listen, that's the way guys sit, and, women don't sit like that. And the reason that you wouldn't call it person spreading or whatever is because women don't get on streetcars, subways, and buses and sit with their legs open like that, taking up space.
When we say spread like that, what do we mean? Are we talking about a specific angle, like 75 degrees, 80 degrees, 90 degrees?
I think what it is spread enough that you're taking up somebody else's personal space beside you. I think that's what it means. However spread that may be.
Okay, I can see that argument. However, the person, like everyone who sits down beside each other, has the option to basically open their legs. If everyone opened their legs and it's sort of like who gets there first. You know what I mean? If somebody,
you think that
it is rude. It is rude to take up more space.
Right.
And say, what about people who weigh more? They take up more space too than other people, but obviously they wouldn't say that's their fault.
Well, what you guys have written in your in this petition that you're asking for, you say it sets a very bad precedent, as men opening their legs is something we have to do due to our biology. It sometimes can be physically painful for us to close our legs, and we can't be expected to do so.
Well, that's why I bring up the point of how wide are we talking about it here, right? Because men don't usually close their legs as much as women for various reasons. One being we have a pair of testicles that makes that uncomfortable. It gets in the way, right? Men don't cross their legs as often as women do, much less often. It's not just because of gender roles, it's because we have testicles that are kind of uncomfortable, right?
Okay.
And so there's a whole range. Nobody's really studying the differences between how men and women sit with their legs on a scientific level. So we don't really have the data to say, well, what's the average, what's the median angle that men sit with, what's the median for women, You know, what percentage of men actually do spread their legs so wide that someone would want to call it manspreading? You know, let's say it's 75 degrees, 80 degrees. What percentage of men actually do that? We don't really know. Is it 2%, 1%, 10%?
Well,
you do a study to find that out, right? And what percentage of women do it? Because I've actually seen women doing this on the subway, and men. I've looked around. I've noticed myself 1 woman and 2 men doing it. I really haven't seen that many people do it, and I use the subway all the time.
Well, Geoff, the petition goes on to say we can't force women to stop breastfeeding on buses or trains, and we can't force them to stop bringing strollers. Why should we force men to close their legs? This is sexism, plain and simple, and it cannot be passed. My main goal for all of this is I just want to see something gender neutral. It doesn't have to be about all men. Everyone hogs seats.
Agreed. But in order to enforce any rule, you need to have some sort of a line to draw, right? So the question is, how are you going to enforce it? If you say, okay, the maximum spreading angle is 85 degrees, what are you going to do? Get out a protractor and measure someone's legs? By the time you get out your protractor, they've already moved their legs, right? I mean...
Yeah, I think you'd have a hard time bringing a protractor. I think what it is simply, it's just invading the space. That's it. But you're saying if you have a campaign, your group is saying that
there is no such thing as manspreading. It's not either you are spreading or not, because there is a continuum, right? And it's very hard. You need to draw a line at some point if you're going to say this is wrong, pretty much. Unfortunately,
you got a lot. You got.
I don't know why some people spread their legs for ridiculous amounts.
Right.
My suspicion is that that's more common when there are a few people on the subway, right? Because there's more space, and they're not actually taking up people's space. And if you're still doing that when the subway's crowded, there's something wrong with that person, obviously.
All right. Well, listen, we're gonna open the phone lines here, Geoff. We'll ask people what they think about your petition. You've got what, about 800 people already?
Wow, that's impressive.
Oh, you did. Well, that's what I was asking if you knew. I see.
I don't know.
I just looked online here. It looked like you had about 877 supporters so far. So
okay.
So there you go. I appreciate you joining me.
I appreciate you having me on. Thanks.
Thanks. Geoff Stone, Canadian Association for Equality. He thinks, well, his group says it's sexism to start calling anything manspreading. You heard what he said, that you wouldn't be able to really measure and know, and it's a bad precedent. Shouldn't be doing that. And besides, women spread their legs too on the buses and subways and streetcars. I would first blush like we understood what it meant, but what do you think about the Canadian Association for Equality calling this a sexism?
Geoff takes this very seriously.
Yeah, well, they do, and they say it should be gender neutral, and it's a bad precedent, and it's not something that should be promoted at all. 870-6400, star 640 on cell. We'll get to your calls in a moment. But first, let's head out to the road. This ban that's coming up about manspreading. They say it's a sexist term. That's simply an act of opening your legs. There are a lot more things, they say, taking up seats on buses than men opening their legs, such as purses, strollers, backpacks. They say it is a sexist plan to say anything is manspreading. And they want, if there's anything that people should be talking about, it should be gender neutral. And they've got, it looks like so far, about 877 supporters. 870-6400, star 640 on cell. Just your reaction to the ban of the ban. Greg, what do you say? Hey, Greg, are you there? Okay, I lost Greg there. Eva.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Good.
So what do you think?
I agree that it should be genderless, but at the same time, if they're going to preach not being sexist, they shouldn't really talk about only women bringing strollers on a bus or transit.
I see. So you should say anybody who brought a stroller on the bus.
Exactly. Like if they're trying not to be sexist, try making your comments genderless as well, because it's not only women who bring strollers on a bus.
All right. So there you go. We've got to be completely gender neutral About any. What about the breastfeeding? That's going to be really hard to do, even.
Oh, I don't even want to get into that one.
Okay.
That's a touchy subject, but I do agree that the advertising should be genderless because we shouldn't just target one group.
Right. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. Let me go to Greg. Hi, Greg.
Hello?
Hey, do I have you now?
It's Freddie, not Greg.
I'm sorry?
Freddie.
Freddie. Sorry. Freddie, what do you say?
Freddie, when you're ready.
Freddie, I'm ready, Freddie. Go ahead.
You know what? This is another bunch of internet gimbals. They got nothing else to do. I've been on the buses and streetcars for the last 4 or 5 years. I've never seen it. Never. I've never seen anybody complain about it, do anything. That doesn't happen here. Maybe in New York, maybe in the States. They're not quite as polite as we are.
Okay. Appreciate your call, Freddie. Well, it is happening here, and it'll be very interesting to see what this petition does. I don't think it'll do anything, frankly. With all due respect to our friends at the Canadian Association for Equality, I think the TTC will follow suit, get some advertising up there and stop people. I think as long as we can do anything and everything to stop people from taking up somebody else's seat or making somebody else uncomfortable while they're riding, that's what we should do. And if it means to be gender neutral, whatever it may be, then just do it. And I'm not sure how many men would have gotten offended by manspreading. All right, listen, as we speak, something I want to talk about right now, and I'm going to let you hear some of this. This has been going on for the last couple of minutes. Jerome Lin, he's Junlin's dad. This is the first